means that I can give a right rule. I can judge righteously. Or I can be vindictive, condemning, punishing, and discriminating. What causes the difference in those two things? Is it possible that the tree that I eat from causes me to either look at things from a positive point of view, where I am capable of judging and doing it righteously and delivering a right ruling and a right idea? Or is it possible that I can eat from a tree that causes me to be vindictive, condemning, punishing, and discriminating? Which one of these two is a reflection of Yahuwah Elohim in the Adam? Were we created to be vindictive? Okay. In the first word, we're faced with our good side and our bad side. Yetzer hara, the evil inclination, and Yetzer tov, the good inclination. The word for officers is shoftrim, that can mean officer or magistrate, but more specifically means to write or to inscribe. So let's consider the connection and the serious implications between the judges, the officers, and our lives. We are constantly bombarded with issues, and it's how we respond to these issues, either with a right ruling attitude or with a vindictive, punishing, condescending, discriminating attitude, that dictates what is inscribed onto our soul. Now, here's one. Once I say something, it's said. I can't take it back. It's better for me to say something, even if I don't agree with you, even if I can't stand you, to say something that is justified, or that is righteous, so to speak. Not self-righteous, but not something that is going to destroy you. I can apologize, but like I say, it still leaves a glint. Over time, that glint can be cleaned up a little bit. But let's take an idea of the difference between inscribing something that is righteous according to Yahuwah Elohim, or inscribing something that is vindictive, punishing, condemning, discriminating, and inscribing that onto my soul. Which one do I want to have inscribed on my soul when Yahuwah Elohim takes that and reviews it? Does he want to look at things inscribed on my soul that are justified, that are righteous? Or does he want to look at things on my soul that are basically viruses that are going to cause this soul to be something that is corrupted and decayed? Okay? Becomes a very important idea. Okay? Dictates what's inscribed on our soul. Can I change what's inscribed on my soul? Absolutely. But it takes more than simply repentance. I have to make teshuvah. I have to allow the old generation to die off. How long does it take for that old generation to die? 40 years. In order for the new generation to cross over, I have to be willing to allow things to die so that I can transition from the old man to the new man. So I can transition from the Adam outside of the gate back to the Adam that was inside the gate in the beginning. Okay? So our very being, which in turn affects our lives and our health, as well as the lives and health of others that we come into contact with. And we look at this as, spiritual Bible stuff and all this stuff, but there's scientific stuff to back it as well. If I say that the way I act, the way I think, and whether I freak out, wig out, and stress out, or if I'm anxious all the time, or have depression all the time, it's making marks in my soul. I'm going to go pray and make teshuvah. Science, though, has also discovered that, and this was some research done by a neurobiologist called Candace Pert. She discovered that something called neuropeptides, the chemicals that are triggered by emotions, are actually thoughts converted into matter. Our cells will contain the things that we think. And if we allow the things that we think to be overly negative all the time into our cell membranes, what happens to those cells? They become degraded. Okay? So, thoughts converted into matter. In other words, our emotions are physically absorbed by our cells and converted into matter. What is at the root of Adam? We just talked about it. Mitpalel. Our ability to judge, our ability to think, our ability to make changes, our ability to be connected to our Elohim, and our ability to dictate what we take in and what we don't take in. Okay? It's in our DNA, so to speak. She stated that we can't separate our mind from our body. Our biography makes up our biology, she says. We always consider that what we think is only in our brain or in our head. Again, science shows us otherwise, that our mind is literally in our cells and tissues. Everything that we think is what we are. The tree that we eat from, is it a tree that is good for food, or is it a tree that is not good for food? Is it a tree that builds me up and enhances my relationship with my Elohim, or is it a tree that restores and establishes Egypt within me so that I begin to fall? Okay? Considering all this, we can see how harmful thinking can make us physically ill, and we can also see how passing this harmful thinking into our speech can impact the physical being of another person, potentially causing them to become ill with our words. Now think about that. We're coming towards Yom Kippur, the month of Elul. Have I unintentionally killed someone that I need to go to a house of rescue to avoid the avenger? Okay? The commandment says, you shall not kill, you shall not murder. That's literally what it says. I don't have to stab you in the head with an ice pick to kill you. I can say ugly things to you, or I can tell someone else ugly things about you that kill your character. Okay? I can do as much damage to your cell biology as I can do to my own cell biology. Have I unintentionally killed someone? Well, Elul is that city of refuge. Do I need to think about that? Because what is one of the things that we're supposed to do in Yom Kippur? If I have harmed you in any way, I need to go speak to you, and I need to apologize to you, and I need to make peace between you and me. It's one of the things. Okay? So, this is why we have to have a judge and an officer at our gates to protect us from allowing harmful stimuli from entering into our camp, our mind, body, and life and soul. If we take into account these are the judges and the officers which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you, we have to take into account that just as these were to decide the issues of the people based on the Torah of Yahuwah, we too are to decide the issues that enter in through our gates, our senses, based on what Yahuwah has given us. The phrase tribe by tribe also offers insight into how we judge according to what Yahuwah has given us. The word used for tribe here is lishvatecha, that comes from the root shebet, that means a rod or a staff, which are both illustrations of the letter lamed that represents guidance and instruction. The word shebet also means a branch and a scepter, in which we are to see our example in Yahusha, the branch, our king, who was as our shepherd, also taught us how we're to act and behave towards one another, as well as towards the situations that life may hurl at us. It's also an interesting thing that the word Shabbat is the root of the word Shabbat, that means our oath, our promise to our Elohim. Okay? The Torah gives us instructions, and Brit Hadashah illustrates how we're to put those into practical use. Only in this way can we judge the people with righteous judgment, make the right choices on the things that we perceive at our gates. In verse 19, we consider what bad judgment entails. You shall not distort judgment. You shall not respect persons. Neither shall you take a gift, for a gift does in the eyes of the wise and perverts the word of the righteous. So the phrase, you shall pervert or distort, is pretty obvious topically. The word for distort is tate, that also means to stretch, to bend, to incline towards, to hold out, and to pervert. The word for judgment is mishpat, that also means an act of deciding, the process of deciding, and the privilege of choice. Do we have the privilege of choice? Of course we do. We are in the image and likeness of Elohim. It isn't simply about not distorting judgment. It's about not abusing the privilege that we have in our free will to choose. We have the Torah to guide us. We have Yahusha as our example. We can choose to follow the Torah's right rulings and our master's example or not. Okay? That little phrase right there that we just considered is also going to be something that we consider when we take a look at Yochanan, First John, chapter 3, verse 2. Okay? Verse 1 and 2. Yes. We also have to take into account that right rulings that are always in favor. We must take into account that its right rulings are always in our favor, so there's no need for us to struggle in figuring out what excuses we need to fabricate based on what our senses tell us. The word of Elohim, his instruction to us, is always in our favor. Did you catch that? The word of Elohim is always in our favor. The word of Elohim is always for our good. We don't have to figure out what excuses we need or what we need to fabricate based on what our senses tell us. This is where doctrine comes from and dogma comes from that ends up being contrary to what the word is actually saying. Okay? Unfortunately, we don't sit here and read it in the language it was written. We read it in the language that we have it, whether it's English or Afrikaans or Spanish, and then we formulate on our ideas based on what our language tells us. This is why we have to be able to go from Elohim's language and understand it from that perspective that he gave it. Okay? In the phrase, you shall not respect persons, we're to treat everyone equally, which is hard to do as we have a tendency to be judge, jury, and executioner to some people who continually feed us bad input. On the other end of the spectrum, we tend to believe people that we really care about. I'm not going to believe that my grandmother may have deceived me. It's impossible. Or I want to believe my children regardless of whether Cheryl She-Shed was burned down, because I know that one of those kids burned it down, but I'm going to deny it because it's impossible that they could have done something like that, right? Because they are angels. Okay? How do we judge? I have to be able to judge righteously according to truth. Takes us back to what we considered in the trees. What is true and what is not true. If I have an extended day, how do I need to examine myself in that extended day? We looked at that earlier. In truth. Right? In truth. Okay. We also tend to be sweeter to the people that feed us good input. We like yes people. Can I say yes, man? Nobody, I won't offend anybody. Okay. We are to treat that input fairly, as the person that is always feeding us bad is capable of feeding us good, and the one that's always feeding us good is also capable of feeding us bad. Did you catch that? That lying dog that I don't trust is capable of telling me the truth. While that sweet angelic little child that would never have burnt down Cheryl She-Shed is capable of lying to me. Okay? I'm so happy that Cheryl had a she-shed, because now I can use that into the ground. Okay? I hope I don't get sued for that, though. All right, anyway. It's exactly because of this that we must carefully discern and not judge unfairly. We must not allow ourselves to be enticed to make a poor decision based on a sweet promise or a kind gesture. Things that look too good to be true usually are. We find this advice voiced in the phrase, neither shall you take a gift, for a gift does blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of righteousness. What kind of tree am I eating from? Is it possible that a gift given to me can be a tree that has no nutritional value? Okay. If we're the children of Yahuwah Elohim because we claim to believe and receive His word, then we must live according to the rules of that house. The rules are found in the pages of His Torah. The rules are found in the pages of His Torah. Remember that when we take a look at 1 Yochanan chapter 3. And vividly illustrate to us the pages of Brit Hadashah, or in the pages of Brit Hadashah. This is explained to us in verse 20, where we are also given a choice to follow or not. Justice, justice shall you follow, that you may live and inherit the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you. That word, zedek, justice, that specifically means righteousness, is mentioned twice, tells us that we are to pay attention. It also alludes to the idea of the beit, the numerical value 2, that's an illustration of a house. The house of righteousness is the house of Yahuwah, of whom we are part if we choose to believe and receive His word. In the simplest terms, if we guard what comes through the gates by carefully judging and policing both the input and the output, we inherit the land which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you. The word for and inherit is verashta, that from the root yaresh means to occupy, to possess, to be an heir to, and to succeed. The negative side of this word is to dispossess, to be destroyed, to be impoverished, or to poverty. So this word offers us a choice, and that choice is based on how we judge and police what we take in during our lifetime. Now consider that. What we take in during our lifetime, what we learned earlier in the truth, is that we have an extension of our day during this period of time. What am I learning? What do I need to change during this extended day? What we inscribe into our soul. The land represents not only our lives, but our souls that are the thumb drive that stores what we input. It is our lives and our souls that will either prosper or not based on the choices that we make. And then there's a whole bunch of corny questions, because Homiletics 101 dictates that you either have a corny title or a bunch of corny questions. So, do you have judges and officers at your gates? What are you writing on the tablet of your soul for Yahuwah, your mighty judge, who has the authority to redeem, deliver, and restore you to read? And with that, we have looked at the Torah portion, a very important Torah portion, and something to consider. And we can say grooviness has been achieved.